Welcome back to Beyond the Buckets. We have a special guest today. We have a former Division I basketball player, award-winning broadcaster, and fitness enthusiast. Welcome, Kevaney Martin, to the show.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
Well, let's go back to the first time we met. I think, you were covering our team and you had mentioned that, hey, you've got any open runs going on. And then I remember this, 5'11" or 6 foot girl coming out to hoop with our team. And I was like, okay, cool. And then she said, I got to warm up first. And you had mentioned that you had a few knee injuries. Tell me about that, because you've had 6 knee surgeries in your basketball playing career. And I just couldn't even fathom having that many injuries and continually wanting to play, and you still play to this day. So tell me about that.
Yeah, some people call me crazy, but it was honestly, it sounds cheesy, but it was for the love of the game. I had my first major knee injury heading into my senior year of high school. It was during a summer league game. I went up for a layup. Some girl tried to block me, and I tore my ACL, MCL, PCL, and partially tore my meniscus. So that was on my left knee heading into my senior year of high school. And really every Division I school that was recruiting me at the time just fell off the face of the earth, obviously. I mean, who wants to sign someone that just completely blew out their knee? The only Division I school that stayed with me was Monmouth University in New Jersey. So I signed as soon as I could. But after that, it was just one knee injury after another. I went from my left knee to my right ACL, back to my left, another part of my meniscus, tore my ACL, and then just little surgeries after that, like weird things that happen. It never really panned out for me as far as my knees.
Unbelievable. I can't even imagine what that was like, going through all the rehab sessions and, just what that mentality is. And it's a special thing that you had to deal with. And to this day, you're still a fitness enthusiast. You run 10 miles a day with your dog. Tell me about that.
Well, that's not my choice. That's my dog's choice.
Yeah.
I have a 2-year-old Weimaraner who is, if you know anything about the breed, they're extremely hyper. They need the exercise. So, I live here in Vegas now, right outside of Red Rock Canyon. So we usually head up there every morning, and he's off the leash and he just goes. So I run after him, and he usually does 10 miles. And to him, it's nothing. But it's crazy because, like I said, I've had 6 knee surgeries. I've had to do tons of rehab, but now they feel stronger than ever. And people ask me, how do you run all that? And I don't have an answer for them.
Yeah.
It's just something that my knees feel great. So I'll take it for now.
You're a crazy person. That's what I say, but that's awesome. I mean, I wish I could run 4 miles is about my peak. I ran a half marathon, and, I did that in about 1 hour and 32 minutes. But
nice.
Running for me is more of like, all right, I just want to get a good workout in. So I capped myself at 4 miles, but maybe I'll get back to 10 one day. So you touched on it briefly. Tell me a little bit about your high school career, because you were a very good high school player your first few years, and then you ended up getting hurt your junior season. Had a lot of college interest, and then going from all this interest to very little interest. And one of the only schools you mentioned was Monmouth University. And tell me about your early on process, what that was like in the recruiting, and then secondly, after the injury, and how that kind of, almost devastated you.
Yeah, so I'm from a really small town in Northwest Pennsylvania outside of Pittsburgh. When people ask where I'm from, I usually just tell them I'm from Pittsburgh. Yeah. But I'm from a really small town about an hour and 45 minutes northwest. It's called Oil City, Pennsylvania. Really small town, not a lot of athletes from that town. So it was really hard for me to get exposure. So my parents would drive me to Pittsburgh the hour and 45 minutes every single day after school, my sophomore, junior, and it was going to be my senior year, but obviously I hurt my knee, to play for one of the top AAU teams on the East Coast called Tri-State Elite out of Pittsburgh, with a lot of Oakland Catholic girls, a lot of Greensburg Catholic girls, Greensburg Central, excuse me. So yeah, we would, every single day I'd get in the car and we would drive down there. And then obviously weekends we would spend traveling the country playing AAU ball. And that's when I really started to get the exposure. And it was awesome. It was exciting, just getting the calls, getting the letters, and knowing that you're legit and you could play. My dream was to play Division I ball, and when you start getting those letters and those phone calls and people start showing interest, it's awesome.
And I really love the experience, not to cut you off, about the East Coast, because you can get to a lot of states quickly. And so a lot of the competition is out there on the East Coast, AAU teams like, the club that I run or others around the area. A lot of times we have to go far out of the area, but for you guys, it was easy for you guys to get, all the way up to probably the Boston area or, down south in the Florida area for these tournaments. So definite advantage on the East Coast, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. We were everywhere. You mentioned, we played in Boston, we played in Orlando, Miami. AAU ball, you travel everywhere, and it's an experience. People who, I think playing AAU basketball was one of the fondest memories I've ever had. Just the experience in itself, the friendships that you build that you still are in contact with to this day. It's incredible. So just, playing AAU ball and getting that exposure, but then, like you said, so it was actually, the crazy thing was, so I had just gotten back from Orlando with my AAU team, and I got back to my small town, Oil City, and my high school team was playing in this rec league in the summer, just, stay in shape, keep the chemistry up.
Right.
And my high school coach called me and he's like, "Hey, Kev, I know you just got back from Orlando, but the team's playing tonight. You want to come watch?" And I was like, "For sure, let's do it." So the entire game, I was sitting at the end of the bench, just cheering on my team. And it was about the fourth quarter. We were up big. It was literally like I should have never been in the game. And I was dressed just because, I'm always ready to play. And my high school coach looked at the end of the bench and he's like, "You want to go in?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Oh, no.
I'm like, "Of course. Yeah, of course I want to go in." So we go in late in the fourth quarter. And how it happened was my point guard stole the ball and I took off on a breakaway and she just lobbed the ball up to me. And so it was a wide open breakaway layup that should have been, an everyday play. And some girl from the other team tried to be a hero and went up to block my shot, and that's when it happened. And it was crazy. My dad was in the stand. I collapsed. I mean, I tore almost every ligament in my left knee, so it was painful to say the least. That's how it actually happened, and it's crazy. You just think about like, what if,
right.
But you can't. You can never. You just got to take it. It was meant to be, right? So
no doubt.
Everything worked out. Yeah, everything worked out. Like I mentioned, I went to Monmouth University and had the best 4 years of my life there. So it worked out.
Awesome. We'll get into that shortly. But just, I don't know if this has ever happened to you. Obviously it has. But every time you're like, all right, we're playing open gym, one more game. Somebody always gets hurt on that last game or something like that. And then like the what ifs, like I was just watching Project 11. And that is with Alex Smith. And, he's a Bay Area guy, or played in the Bay Area, but he's from San Diego. And he ended up tearing his knee up really, really bad. I don't know. Did you see it?
Oh, yeah. It's crazy. It was actually on was on ESPN2 last night.
Exactly. I watched the same thing. I was like, oh my goodness, because I just knew he got injured, but I didn't know it was like that. Like he almost lost his leg, and it was amazing to how that whole thing came about. And I don't know if you like follow it, but Joe Theismann got hurt on the same exact day as Alex Smith, the same exact injury, pretty much.
Yep.
And on top of that, J.J. Watt was a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, and so was Lawrence Taylor. And ironically, the score was the exact same when that happened. I believe it was in 1983. Like, unbelievable.
It's crazy.
So watching that, I know some of the struggles that you probably went through with your injury and rehabbing and all of those things. Like that's a pretty significant injury. So how did you rehab and get back? Because it's got to be tough.
Yeah, it sounds silly now when I look back because I was only a senior in high school, but like for me, that was like a dark, dark time. I mean, you go from a place where, you know, you're getting recruited by multiple Division I schools, you're so excited, and then you're laying on a gym floor and you're in this excruciating pain, and you're wondering, you're like, am I ever going to play again? Like, I remember thinking that, like, it was bad. And so I had the surgery. It was actually emergency surgery because I tore so many ligaments. So I had the surgery, and rehab was hard for me. I just remember like being like in a really dark place. Not even, I remember saying like, do I even want to play anymore? And I remember that all of a sudden, like something clicked inside of me. And it was like, this is what you love. Like, why would you ever give this up? So I can't remember like the time or the moment, but something clicked inside of me, and I just went all out on rehab. Like, I was like, this is it. This is like, I guess it was like since I couldn't compete in the game, I'm competing against myself to rehab and get back. And my goal was to be ready to go for the summer heading into Monmouth. Like, that was it. And the Monmouth coaches were great. They would check off on me all the time to make sure I was doing good, you know, mentally, physically. And I felt like I was ready to go heading into my freshman year at Monmouth. I had a great training camp, all that stuff, preseason, and then 6 games into that, it was my other knee into that season. So, like I said, I never really had like a college career, unfortunately. It was always I'd rehab, I'd get strong, I'd be ready to go, and then another knee.
Well, hats off to you for continuing to get back up when things look so bleak. And, you know, for a lot of people that happens where you kind of get knocked off and you have to try to get back on and figure things out. But it has also made you the person who you are now. Without those injuries, you wouldn't be the person, the successful, you know, broadcaster that you are right here, right now, because of those things that happened in the past.
Oh, for sure. Even now, I continually look back at those times. You say I was strong. I was either crazy or strong. I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet.
Sure.
But yeah, I think it really has shaped me into the person I've been. I mean, especially in a business like this, you have to be strong. I mean, you're going to get 1,000 no's to 1 yes. And you have to have thick skin. Like, you have to realize going in, not everyone's going to love you. Not everyone's going to love your delivery. Not everyone's looking for, you know, what you bring to the table. So I constantly refer back to my basketball days and just, you know, you've been here, Kevaney. You've been rejected. You've faced, you know, adversity 1,000 times. Why not 1,001? You know, so definitely. I credit my strength and my hard-headedness 100% to basketball and what it brought to me, even with the injuries.
Right. Well, touch on your family life a little bit, because you have a very competitive family. All of them are high achievers, and you kind of had, you know, some footsteps that you wanted to follow with your older siblings, and then you had a younger sibling that was elite at what she did. So tell me about your family dynamics, and I think that's probably what shaped, you know, your mindset to always strive for the best and achieve success.
Yeah, I grew up in a family, 4 kids in 5 years, so it was crazy. It was a crazy household. I watch family videos back, and I'm like, Mom, how did you do this?
Oh my
4
gosh.
kids under the age of 5, and we were wild kids. Like, you see, like, kids that grew up reading books and they're calm. No, we were constantly like, honestly, I don't know how all 4 of us survived. We were, you know, running into the road, like just being kids. And so, yeah, my brother and I, we were super competitive from day one. And it's funny, I've always grown up a tomboy, and he was my idol. Like, I wanted to be my brother so bad. So we were always competing at everything. So, yeah, my older sister, she's the brains of the family, super smart. She's an architect now, but she was an incredible dancer, had some offers to dance at some really elite schools. but she wanted to focus on, architect, and she went to some she graduated from Penn State undergrad and then went to Penn for grad school. And then also my brother went to Penn State. Both my parents went to Penn State. And then so that was my dream growing up. I wanted to play for Renee Portland, who was the women's basketball coach at the time, and be a Lady Lion. Obviously, it wasn't in the cards. And but like I said, everything works out for a reason. I had the best 4 years at Monmouth, so I'm grateful for that. And then my younger sister, she was also an athlete, and I think it was funny because obviously I was the youngest of my two older siblings, so my relationship with her was different. Like she was always competing with me because I was the older one. So she was a great basketball player too, but she really succeeded at long distance running, which is crazy to me now because at the time, no one in my family ran, and she actually got into cross country to get in shape for basketball. Wow. And ended up being ridiculous, winning race after race after race. I think her sophomore year, she was like third in the state of Pennsylvania for cross country, and she got offers at some big Division I schools, but never wanted to take it to the next level. So she went to Ohio University. So her and I strayed away from Penn State. But that was the dream growing up pretty close to Penn State.
What was her time? Do you remember her times offhand for being,
Gosh,
in the state? I think they run 3.2 miles in cross country, something like that.
Yeah, I think at 5K. Yeah, right around a 5K. I remember her splits were insane. I wish I could remember her times offhand, but I don't want to throw out a number and it could either be ridiculous.
Are you in your 10-mile pace now? Are you close to where she was at?
Oh gosh, no, and and she still runs. Like she does marathons all the time. She just finished a half. So she's like, "What's your split? What's your split?" And I'm like, "Go away."
Yeah. Is the running hard on your body now? Like as you're getting older, like what do you do for recovery? Just from my own personal knowledge.
Yeah. Stretch a lot. Stretching is huge.
Sure.
First thing, I know it's funny, like you hear like, "Whoa, wait till you're older, and you're finally, I'm like, oh, this must be what they're talking about. Like I stretch right when I get up, I stretch before I run, a lot of ice too. I ice a lot, heat, whenever I'm kind of sitting around doing nothing, and make sure that I'm, benefiting from that. And helping out my body somehow, stretching, icing, heat. I'm never just like, if I'm sitting around, like last night when we were watching The Last Dance, I had 2 ice packs on my knees and an ice pack on my back, just because. I mean, they didn't hurt, but I knew, I was like, just get the blood flowing in there. It never hurt, Yeah.
I feel like I'm always stretching. I got one of those Theraguns, like, cause I'm just my whole life, like I feel all sore all the time. And, just, getting up there in age, it's like, it's hard, man. But for everybody out there, you got to make sure you stretch and foam roll and do all those things to help your flexibility, because it helps you recover, and then hopefully you can continue to the next day. But talking about continuing, at what point did you decide that you wanted to do sports broadcasting? Was it when you were younger, or was it when you were in college and injured and had to watch the games a lot? Like what was the initiation of your thirst for broadcasting?
So I actually always wanted to be a sports writer. I come from a family of writers. On my mom's side, they owned a newspaper in Titusville, Pennsylvania for years.
Wow.
So I've always wanted to write. So even in my senior yearbook in high school, I put, be a sports editor for a huge newspaper. That was my dream. So when I went to school at Monmouth, I got involved in the student newspaper and worked my way up to the sports editor. And it was heading into my senior year at Monmouth, constantly people kept coming up to me and saying, "Why are you getting into a dying business? Why are you getting into a dying business?" And I kind of got tired of hearing it. And someone said to me, "Have you ever thought of broadcast?" And to be honest, up until that point, I hadn't. I was like, no, I've always been about writing. And so they were like, come try out the student television station. We had like that little studio, and we would broadcast across campus, and it was, just fun. So I tried it out and literally fell in love. Like, I was like, this is it. Like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
So the unfortunate thing was the first 3.5 years of my college was focused around writing. So I had no idea what the television business was all about, like
Right.
Zero idea. So I graduated and I was like, what now? Like, so it was interesting, to say the least. It was, so yeah, I caught the bug and haven't, given it up since.
I love when people get that ignition, and that kind of aha moment where it's like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
this is, I really enjoy this. And for so long you had focused on basketball, and that was kind of the fire. And then you find something new, and that happens a lot in life, where you're into certain things, and then, you're setting yourself up for later. So you probably didn't even know it, but you were probably already being prepped because, your parents own a newspaper, like you mentioned, and then you're writing. But the writing part probably helps you so much in your profession now, where some people, it may be very difficult for them to, put together a monologue where, hey, this is a piece of cake for you. And now you're just stacking those traits to make you more marketable. I just absolutely love that.
It's so true. And a lot of people don't know that in our business, it is so huge to be able to write. A lot of people just think, we're talking heads, or, we just appear on air. But we write a lot in our business. I mean, to this day, I still write all of my own stories or packages. And it helps so much to be able to sit down, especially in this business where you're working against daily deadlines.
Sure.
And you're constantly, racing against the clock to get your story in for the 6th or story in for the 11th. So to be able to write is huge. And people notice that. People, oh, you're writing, is heads above others. So, I mean, especially getting your foot in the door to be able to write, huge.
Right. No, I've learned that firsthand with just writing these monologues and just making sure it's worded the correct way and make sure it paints everybody in a good light. But it's more difficult than people realize, and you've done a really good job. But tell me about your first opportunity. You had to, and with this business, you have to be willing to pick up and go. And so your first opportunity was in South Dakota. Tell us about that.
Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Yeah, like I said, so when I graduated, I literally I threw together a reel that was me, the 6 months of me reporting for our student television station, and just started sending it everywhere. And to this day, I look back at that reel and I'm like, oh my gosh, I sent that out to people.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was crazy. So I sent it out. There was an opening for a sports intern at the ABC affiliate in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, KSFY.
Yeah.
And I sent the sports director an email, and he calls me back, and he's like, this is unpaid. Are you sure you want to do this? And I didn't hesitate. I knew, like, this is what I wanted to do, and if I was going to make it happen, I had to make sacrifices. I remember calling my parents after I got off the phone with the sports director, and he's like, it's yours if you want it. And I called my parents, and this was about a month or so after I graduated. So, they were expecting me to, get a full-time job and stuff. And I called them, and I'm like, hey, I'm heading to Sioux Falls, South Dakota for an unpaid sports internship. And they were like, what? But, they never wavered from support. They're like, if this is what this is what you want to do, this is what you believe in, if you think this is the way to get to where you want to be, go for it. So right. I literally packed up my car in New Jersey, where Monmouth is, and drove to Sioux Falls in August of, after I graduated. Right. And didn't know anyone, just, got to work, and I loved it. Some of the best memories. I mean, it was such a small market. I think it's like market 160 or something. And you're covering, like, there was at the time, obviously the D League, now it's the G League. There's a G League team out there there was an AFL team out there, Arena Football League team. So it was super interesting, small time sports. You're going to Little League games
Right.
and covering Little League. Like, it was fun though. And kind of how you touched on, I mean, you got to be willing to do that from the start.
Right.
Not a lot of people there are some exceptions that, sign with big markets right out of the gate. But for the most part, I mean, you got to start small and work your way up and, make a name for yourself. And I saw an opportunity in Sioux Falls and took it, and it was awesome.
Right. So a lot of things that I like to unpack there. Number one, every journey starts with one step. So that was the first step that you took. And some people always want, okay, well, your goal may have been when you were young to be on ESPN or play in the pros or whatever it may be. But people want to try to skip steps. You can't really skip steps if you're going to be successful. And these reps that you're getting, you can't get. You're not going to be able to get those on the fly. So when you get the job that you want, or you get to the place that you want, you're not prepared for that spot, going from high school to college in basketball. Well, if you didn't put the reps in, you might be a great athlete and you might have great talent, on air. But if you haven't put the reps in, it's going to show. And then, your performance isn't going to be what it is. So I just really appreciate the groundbreaking steps that you had to take to get to where you are now. But, you were having fun in the process. And guess what? Sometimes early on, it's not very, you were having fun, but it's not fun to be, in South Dakota, and that wasn't where you wanted to go, but you had an end goal in mind, and you kept going. So that led to an opportunity at Cal High Sports in California. How did you go about getting that position? Obviously, California is a much better place than South Dakota, but how did you position yourself to take that next step?
Yeah, so I kind of gave myself a timeline. Like, I was like, all right, I'm moving to Sioux Falls. And to backtrack, I say now it was awesome. Looking back, the memories are awesome. When you're there and you're grinding, obviously, like, yeah, that was tough for me too. I mean, I'm 22 years old in the middle of nowhere, Midwest United States, and no friends. So it was tough, no family.
Right.
And many times I was like, I wanted to leave. Like, I'm like, you know what, I'm packing up tomorrow. I'm heading back. I don't care. But I kept grinding. So to say it's awesome, like, I don't want people to, get the wrong impression that, like, oh, every step, is when you're living it, it's tough. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, it's a grind. But looking back at the memories now and looking at how far I came, that's where, you're like, you know what, that was worth it. That was really cool. Like, that's an experience that not a lot of people have.
Yeah. And it's only a short period of time. It's not like you're there
exactly.
for 10 years. You couldn't do it for that long. But
yeah,
you're there for a short period of time in the grand scheme of things,
yep.
maybe not even 20% of your career at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And to, asking how I got to Cal High, I gave myself a timeline when I was in Sioux Falls. I was like, all right, Kevaney, if you don't want to be here that long, let's get to work. So basically, any opportunity that I had to be on air, I was on air. I was asking 1,000 questions to my sports director. What should I do? Can you critique this? Can you show me how to do this? And every single day I was grinding just to get in and out. So I was actually only in South Dakota for, I think, 10 months, maybe 11 months, not even a year. And
let me ask you this real quick before you go on. How did you take the critique? Because every time, you want criticism, right? But you don't want people to just completely break you down, like your basketball coach or whatever, whoever is mentoring you, you want them to feel good about your work. How did you take the critique early on?
Yeah, early on it's tough because you think, oh, I'm so good. This is going to be great. He's going to love this. I worked so hard on this. And then he's like, no, that's not airable. And you're just like, what? As a 22-year-old, you're like, what?
All right.
So yeah, early on, the critique was tough. But then, like I said, in this business and in basketball, you have to have thick skin. You have to be willing to get that critique and realize that maybe you're not as good as you think you are. That everyone, has work to do and has areas to grow in. So I think
Wow.
I learned early on that, to take the critique, and if I want to make it in this business, to listen to it, not fight it. And so, yeah, I built a reel as fast as I could, and just started sending it to places. And Robert Bronstein at Cal High Sports Bay Area saw it, gave me a call, and I had never been to California. I'm an East Coast girl. Went to school on the East Coast, everything. Yep. So he's like, "You want to come out for an interview?" And I was like, "Sure." And so Cal High is based in Santa Clara, California, and flew out for an interview. They offered me the job, and I was like, "Yes, I want to take it." So I called my parents, and I'm like, "Hey, now I'm moving to California, but it's paid."
Yeah.
That's a plus.
Right.
So yeah, got in my car again and continued to drive west and landed in the Bay Area.
Nice. And that's where we met. Did you spend 3 years out here?
Yeah, I think it was 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah. What'd you like most about the Bay Area?
Man, I love the Bay Area. The weather, the people, and to be honest, the high school sports. So Cal High Sports, as you know, is just a high school sports show that airs every Sunday. It's an hour long. So that's the one thing. It's not a live show, so you don't have any live deadlines. But you do it all. You shoot, you write, you edit, you produce, and together it's usually a team of like 6 people that put together this hour show. But that was the high school sports in the Bay Area is bar none. I mean, you hear about football in Texas and basketball in Indiana, but the Bay Area. I mean, everyone knows the De La Salles and the Middies and Valley Christian, but gosh, that's incredible. I mean, It was every single day. It was like you're watching some of the top high school athletes in the country. Who are going. Pac-12, Big Ten, ACC, SEC. So that was awesome. And to see where they are now, like just to follow their careers, it's so cool to see.
No, there's so many great athletes in this area, and they've been able to showcase their talent on Cal High, and then go on, like you said, to Power 5 schools, and do really great things. So I absolutely love this area. I think that sometimes it gets overlooked by some of the East Coast places, but the numbers in every single sport don't lie. There's so many kids that just recently got drafted from this area. Some of the best quarterbacks, some of the best baseball players. When you go, Tom Brady, when you go Barry Bonds, they both went to the same high school up at Sarah. Colin Johnson just got drafted from Texas. From Valley Christian. Like, there's just so many great basketball players, football players, baseball players, volleyball, just you name it. So yeah, I would have to agree with you.
Yeah, it was a blast.
So after the Cal High days, you switch it up and you go back east to Virginia, I believe, and doing the mid-major sports, and that's what, if I'm not mistaken.
So the mid-major sports. So basically, collegeinsider.com, which is the #1 mid-major basketball. So I've been freelancing for them for I think 5 years now. When I was in California, they found me, reached out, and asked if I wanted to freelance with them. So that's been awesome. That's been a national platform where I produce daily stuff and host stuff, and actually did sidelines for the CIT national championship for CBS Sports for 3 years. So that was obviously, so that's been a blast. So that's been my freelance work. But then, so you mentioned Virginia. I got, after Cal High, the Fox affiliate, WFXR in Roanoke, Virginia, needed another sports person. So I went there, and that was awesome, covering the ACC. Our main coverage was Virginia Tech and UVA. So just traveling, I actually traveled with the football team both years I was there, and obviously covered the Hokies and UVA basketball. And we also dabbled in Redskins and the Panthers. So that was fun. You got a taste of the NFL and stuff, but just covering ACC basketball and ACC football was incredible. Being in Lane Stadium for Enter Sandman, when you have 65,000 fans jumping up and down and you're standing on the sidelines, you're like, what how am I
Wow.
getting paid for this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was there for 2 years. That was awesome. And really enjoyed it there and really grew there. I think that was my biggest step. That was my first time covering, live events, being on live TV, because obviously, as I mentioned, Cal High Sports was a pre-tape show.
Right.
So that was my first time, like, reporting on live TV, anchoring on live TV. So I think that Roanoke was probably where I grew the most as an anchor reporter.
What was the hardest part during that time?
I think it was the transition to live TV. Now it's kind of second nature, but at the time I was like, wait, I have to do this live, because I
Mm.
never, they would put me on live TV in Sioux Falls every once in a while, but a lot of my stuff was pre-taped there too.
Right.
But I think that was my biggest, growth, or where I saw the biggest challenge. But then it's kind of like I explain to people, it's like riding a bike. Like, once you see that red light go on, you just go. I mean, it's go time. It's just like
Right.
anything else.
Sure.
So yeah.
And then that sparked an opportunity in Las Vegas at KLAS, where you're at
Yeah.
now, which has a lot of great opportunities for you with the Raiders there, the Aces are there, the Knights are there. Like, that's a pretty good market to be in. Tell me how that came about, and then what you're excited about.
Yeah, kind of same deal. They actually reached out to me with everything that was going on in this market. They were looking to expand the sports department, and so they reached out. They knew that my contract in Virginia was coming up, so they flew me out here for an interview and offered me the job. And before I came out for the interview, I'd never actually been to Las Vegas, even for a weekend or anything. I didn't know what it was about. All I knew about it was from the movies.
Sure.
And I'm like, there is no way I can live in Las Vegas. Like, that's
Right.
not happening. And I flew out here, checked it out. They offered me the job, and ultimately took it. But it was a hard decision. I remember I talked to one of my mentors who used to work for ESPN. He now works he covers the Giants now, full-time, New York Giants. And he's like, you'd be crazy not to take this opportunity. He's like, everything that's going on out there. And at the time, we just knew of the NHL. The Raiders moving to Vegas was still on the rocks. They still, there was still that lawsuit in Oakland going on, and everyone's like, is it going to happen? Will it happen? So at that time, we didn't know, and we had no idea that the WNBA was moving out here. So I just, I took it, and holy cow, it's the place to be, obviously. Covering the Golden Knights in their inaugural season and what they did, obviously the Stanley Cup final run, and now and then right after that, it was like the groundbreaking of the Raiders. Oh, they're officially coming, So just covering all that excitement, and then a month later, it was, oh, we're getting a WNBA team. Oh, this is cool, and it's just everything after that. I mean, you're talking about UFC, huge boxing bouts. The NBA Summer League's here. USA Basketball comes here. So the opportunities in this market are endless, and they're only growing. So it's crazy because, 5 years ago, Las Vegas had this huge stigma attached to it. And, professional franchises were saying, no, never. We would never have a team in Las Vegas. And now it's like, who else is coming? What's next?
Right. Yeah.
Rumors of the NBA are coming, so it's really cool. It's a cool time to be a part of the sports scene here in Vegas.
I just saw your tweet from Shaq that possibly an NBA team might be coming out there. It'd be great for the home team. I think you get a great advantage with the Vegas nightlife for some of these athletes. Let's pivot a little bit. Tell me some of the struggles that you have being a woman in this industry where there's it's so male dominated, and a lot of industries are like that. But you forging ahead. What has been some of the struggles that you've had? Trying to break some of those barriers. And obviously, there's been a lot of women that have done that. But tell me about your personal experience.
Yeah, I think it comes with just being in the business and garnering the respect, the years that you've spent in this business. So, I'm still fairly new. I'm still, especially bouncing around from market to market, you have to reestablish that respect from athletes, from coaches, from anyone, GM. So, Yeah, you know, it's no secret. Obviously, women don't play football. We don't play baseball. So,
Right.
I'm not saying that it's intentional, but sometimes the remarks that you get from people, like I said, it's not. Sometimes, I mean, it could be meant to insult you, but like just little remarks like that, like but you just take it. It's like you said, it's part of the business, and unfortunately, but you
Yeah.
have to earn your stripes. And like you said, there's just been so many incredible women that have made it possible. They're the true pioneers. I mean, you're talking about Doris Burke, Pam Oliver,
Yeah.
Tracy Wolfson, all them. Linda Cohn, Susie Goldler, they're the ones that really, really probably experienced some crazy, they probably have some crazy stories.
Right.
So, yeah, unfortunately, you still see it today a little bit, but for the most part, I think hopefully people are turning that page and realizing that, women are just as credible as men, and they can tell just as great stories and have the ability to cover sports just as well. And I think that respect is there, and it's only up from here, right?
Absolutely. And I'm all for just the women's empowerment. Robin Roberts, I watch her, every day on GMA. Doris Burke, I can listen to her talk basketball more than any of the guys that are on the air. Like she's it, she's just amazing. And so many of these women have transcended and gotten that respect. Jackie, what's her last name up in Boston? McMullen,
Oh,
maybe.
McMillan,
Yeah,
McMillan,
she's terrific.
she's
Like
legit.
they they they've earned their respect in the industry just like you have, and what you'll continue to do. So I'm excited to see where the rest of your career goes, because you're definitely somebody that everybody is going to know for sure, not just in the Vegas market but worldwide. Tell me a little bit about behind the scenes. You mentioned it being, I think they call it a one-man band, when you're taping everything, when you're writing everything, producing everything, and then being on air. So tell me what that's like, because some people just see it get on television and don't really know the process. I know now it may not be that way with your current setup, but if you're getting in this industry, what are some of the things that you need to know? And the last thing is, you need to be able to do it all, not just be an on-air talent.
Yeah, man, it's a grind. I mean, you're talking about carrying your own equipment, shooting your own stuff, bringing that back, being able to edit and write and produce it, all before you have to look normal and composed on air.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that that's what goes into it. Early on when people would see me shooting my own stuff, they do like a triple take. You shoot your own stuff. We
Right.
thought you were a sports anchor. Oh yeah, I'm a sports anchor, but I'm also a sports photog. I'm a sports editor, and I'm a sports producer. And I get some DMs or texts or calls from college graduates trying to break into this business, and some of them don't know that. Like, and it's kind of eye opening to them. They're like, wait, what? I thought we would have our own photographer, or someone would edit our stuff. And I'm like,
Right.
no, unless you make it like national. Obviously Aaron Andrews and Pam Oliver, and they're not
Mhm.
editing their own stuff. They literally, but like I said, they've earned it. They've been in the small markets. They've worked their way up. They've earned that. So yeah, unless you're them who literally just step on camera and know their stuff. But it's a grind. It's a daily grind, especially early on in this business.
Yeah, in basketball, I call it the unseen hours, and in your industry, that's no different. Everybody sees the end product, but they don't realize what went into getting that on the actual air. One of the things that I was looking up in, doing our research for this interview, was an interview that you did last summer, and that was with Kobe Bryant and Gigi Bryant. And that was one of their last interviews together. And I started crying. I was up super early, and I was just I checked on my son, and I went in and I just went on the computer, and I saw the interview, I just started crying. I mean, it was such an amazing interview with those two. But you have a special story behind that. Tell us about that.
Yeah, Kobe brought obviously the Mambas, the AAU team that he coached, to an Aces game one day. No clue, no one knew that he was coming. He just showed up, and he brought them in and sat courtside with his team, and everyone's freaking out. The media's freaking out. I mean, it's Kobe Bryant. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, we got to get this interview. We got to get this interview. So I had some live shots that I had to do before the game. So I kind of was watching, and I saw the NBC affiliate here in Las Vegas go up to him directly. And I was like, oh, they're going, they're actually going to ask Kobe for an interview. And I saw him turn it down. So I was like, oh man, he must not be doing interviews today. But to be honest, I didn't even want to talk to Kobe. I wanted to talk to Gigi, because everyone knew that like her dream was to play in the WNBA. And I just wanted, that was my story. We're at a WNBA game, women empowerment, growing the game, that type of thing. So
Right.
I saw his PR guy standing by, and I went up to him. I was like, hey, I noticed that Kobe's probably not doing interviews today, but can I talk to Gigi? And his face he kind of looked at me. He's like, I don't know. I'll go ask. I don't see why she, why you can't talk to her, but I'll go up to Kobe and see if that's cool. And he was like, do you want him to come with her? And I was like, sure, if he wants to, that'd be great. So, I'm kind of watching him while the play stops. He walks over and he starts, talking to Kobe, and Kobe looks up to him and he's like, yeah, sure. Like, no hesitation. And
Wow.
looked over at Gigi and he's like, yeah. So during, I think it was between, I don't know if it was halftime or between the first and second period, either way, he came over, huge smile on his face, just, so proud of Gigi. And yeah, it was an incredible interview, an incredible moment. And just to see the excitement of Gigi at a WNBA game. And it was funny because they were playing LA, and I asked her, I remember I asked her because I thought they were there to watch the Sparks.
Her favorite
living
players.
in LA. Yeah. So I was like, oh, I'm afraid to ask you this because, we're at an Aces game. And she's like, no, the Aces are my favorite team, actually. And she loved Kelsey Plum and Asia, right, and all of them. So it was incredible. And to think, at the time, obviously you don't know what's going to happen. But just to have that moment, to me, to Kobe, I was just another reporter, but to me, that was like an incredible moment. And not only because of him, just to see the love and admiration he had for his daughter. And it wasn't about him anymore, like right. You hear people say that, like, I'm done. I don't want the spotlight anymore. But do they really mean that, But you could tell he genuinely meant it. Like, he's like, it's not about me anymore. It's all about her. It's all about my daughters. This is their time to shine. And it really showed in that interview. And just, like, he was turning down every interview. But, I wanted to talk to Gigi. And, yeah, sure, Gigi's dad can come if he wants and stand there. But, yeah, it was awesome.
Wow. We'll definitely put that in the show notes for everybody. I know it's, it's hard to watch, now that we know the outcome of what happened. But like you said, just the gentle nature and just the sheer happiness that he had, it is displayed in that exact interview, because just looking at him, look down at her. That was what got me, when he was just like, he just had that look on his face. It's just so proud. And I just love what he was doing for women's basketball in general. I coach girls basketball. I've done that for the last 8 years now, but the girls game doesn't get the coverage that the guys get. The girls game is still very young in its infancy. People don't realize that. And there's just so much that the girls game has to offer, and it's different than the guys. It's still basketball, and it's beautiful. And that's what Kobe really, really embodied, just pushing the women's game forward. And it was so unfortunate that obviously that happened. But hopefully we'll get to a place where everybody just is okay with where he was at and just remembers him and Gigi and everybody else that unfortunately lost their lives. So let's take another pivot. Tell me a little bit about some of the other top interviews that you had. Who are some of the people that you really enjoyed, not maybe the most famous, but just people that you thought were thoughtful and just really engaging?
To this day, I'd say one of my top interviews ever was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Man, if you have ever have a chance just to even talk to him, that man is probably one of the smartest people I've ever talked to. That interview was super special. I'll never forget that. Sue Bird and Megan Rapinoe, that was fun. They were a blast. That was at the Aces All-Star game. Billie Jean King was incredible.
Wow.
She was awesome. Yeah. Trying to think. I mean, when USA Basketball is here, just getting to pick the brain of, Kemba Walker, the young guys. Jason Tatum was cool. Kyle Kuzma was cool. I mean, just being able to sit down with them and chat is awesome. I'm trying to think. I've been in this business for so long. The legendary Frank Beamer, for sure. If anyone knows anything about college football, he'll go down as one of the greatest of all time. And obviously, he built Virginia Tech.
They call it Beamer ball, right?
Yeah, it's all about special teams. Beamer ball. He was incredible. Buzz Williams, now at Texas A&M. He's an interesting dude. If you ever get a chance to talk to him, he has some interesting things for sure. But yeah, I think that's the coolest part about this. It's just getting to meet them and pick their brains. I mean, you're talking to some of the greatest athletes of all time, and it's special.
Yeah. I won't ask you who the worst interviewers are or who the worst people are, but I will ask you who are some of the people that you would like to interview in the future?
That's a good question. It's a really good question. The only interview that I would ever love to get that I haven't gotten would be, and I'm guessing this is the answer for a lot of people in my business, is Michael Jordan. I've never even seen him or come in the same gym or anywhere with him. I think that would be absolutely incredible to be able to sit down with him. That right there I don't think I've ever had anyone ask me that question. What's the one interview that you wanted to do? It would probably be Jordan.
Wow. And obviously with the Last Dance going on right now, that's in the front of everybody's mind. And it's been great to see kind of the behind the scenes of who he was, because, we always saw the athlete, but seeing behind the scenes and just the authenticity that they're going into is just unprecedented, and I love that. I'd rather have that instead of the buttoned up person, because we all have flaws, and I like the fact that they're painting all sides of the story and not just one. Let me ask you this: if since you just answered that one, who would be five if you had a dinner party and there's five individuals, you're the sixth? Who are the other five in the sports industry? It could be male, female, whoever. Who would you want to have at that table, and what is the reasons why you would have those people?
Dead or alive? Can they be deceased?
Absolutely, anybody. Yep.
Okay. Number one would be DB, Doris Burke, for sure. She's incredible at what she does. I think she's probably, like you said, I can listen to her all day, every day. She's incredible.
Absolutely.
She's smart. I would just love to be able to pick her brain, that's for sure. Number two would be Pat Summitt, no doubt.
Wow. Powerful.
I think, obviously I never got to meet her. Everyone kind of sees that coaching image, but I have friends that actually knew her personally, and they said she was the coolest person on this planet. Like, after a game, she would just grab a beer and just chill. And you would never picture Pat Summitt being that person, right?
Never.
Never. I got to say Reggie Miller is number three. I know that's weird, but
no, it's not.
That's who I idolized growing up. From second grade on.
There you go. Shooter. Yeah. That's why you're a shooter.
I wore 31 my entire career from second grade through college because of him.
Awesome.
No, yeah. So Reggie Miller for sure. That's three. Let's see here. I interviewed him, but I would totally add him to this party, and I forgot about this because this was a fun interview, especially being from Pittsburgh. Terry Bradshaw would be
Oh,
number 4.
good old Terry.
He would bring. This will be one interesting dinner party, that's for sure.
No, because you gotta have the humor, So Terry's definitely the humorous one of that group so far.
Definitely.
Reggie's pretty funny too, though.
Yeah, I could see Reggie and Terry having some pretty funny banter going back and forth.
And then your last spot, sure. your starting 5 dinner party. Who's the last person in?
And I brought him up earlier, but to bring the brains to this conversation, I got to go with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He would. Wow. He would have the conversation going, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so it would be Doris Burke, Pat Summitt, Reggie Miller, Terry Bradshaw, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
That'd be
a fun dinner party.
One great dinner party, and hopefully some good wine, I guess, with it as well to get everybody chatting. But that's an all-time list right there. You can't go wrong. So tell me a little bit about the Raiders. You text me the other day. Hey, I can't talk right now. I got Mike Mayock calling me at this time. So tell me about that. There's a lot of cool parts of this industry. I think one of those is just the contact with these individuals that have to get stuff to the media. And so tell me about the Raiders, what you're looking forward to, and any other cool things that you got going on.
Yeah, it's super exciting. I mean, you're talking about the NFL, which is the biggest sports entity in the world, and then you're talking about one of the most iconic brands in the sports industry as a whole, not only in the NFL, but the Raiders. I mean, that transcends borders. It's the Raiders. So to have that team here in Vegas is absolutely incredible. And they've been insanely, just getting busy, getting dirty in the Las Vegas community. I mean, every other time we turn around, there's a player out, at a homeless shelter. And this was 2 years ago it started.
Wow.
And Mark Davis has really fronted that. And a fun fact about Mark Davis, Al Davis and Mark Davis were huge, huge, huge WNBA fans. For some reason, Al Davis loved the WNBA, and Mark Davis, because of his father, said, you know what, I'm going to go to these games too. So Mark Davis has a season ticket to the Aces game, and he comes to 95% of the home games. And he even said the Raiders played their final regular season game when the Aces were in the playoffs, and he almost didn't go to the Raiders game and came to the Aces game. He was telling me because he's he just loves it that much. So yeah, Mark has been great, just showing support. Obviously, he goes to 1,000 Golden Knights games, but he also for the Aces, and he's been this was Al's dream. He loves Vegas, and Mark's making it happen. But yeah, we're super excited for them to get here, and obviously the new $2.6 billion stadium right on the Strip is almost pretty close to being complete. Gorgeous. It's going to be a show. Get your cameras out for anything and everything that goes on in that stadium. I mean, you put the Raiders in Vegas, everything's going to be up a notch, So super excited for them to actually get here and call Vegas home.
Wow. I love it. And, we're out there quite often for club basketball. Hopefully we can get back there this summer. But I'm excited to see, what happens with the city. My cousin plays for the Aces, so I'll be out there supporting her. Danielle Robinson.
Who's your cousin?
Danielle Robinson. She just signed
no way.
with the Aces a few months back. So, it's going to be awesome. Let's wrap this up, but quick fire questions to end the interview. One, what's your favorite sport to cover?
Basketball.
Give me 2 fun facts about yourself that people would not know.
I'm 6'1", and I'm not that interesting of a person. This is tough. I'm 6'1", and now everyone knows. I was going to say I had 6 knee surgeries, but everyone knows that. Is that still a fun fact?
Yeah, that's good. Favorite city to visit?
Pittsburgh.
Favorite city to live in?
Vegas.
Vegas. And last one, what's your guilty pleasure? So it could be ice cream, it could be whatever.
Chocolate.
Chocolate? What kind of chocolate?
Dark chocolate. I like with the sea salt sprinkles on it. I love
dark chocolate is supposed to be good for you too, isn't it? A little bit of dark chocolate?
Sure. Not the amount that I eat, but.
So any plugs that you would like to plug at this point? Anything
just
cool going on?
Nothing cool. Follow me on Twitter, Kevaney Martin, @Kevaney Martin, or Instagram @Kevaney Martin. That's about it.
Cool. Make sure to put that in the notes, but get ready to see Kevaney all over the screen coming up for, locally in Vegas. And I'm pretty sure you'll be seeing her all over after that. So thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. You were great. You're going to give a lot of insight, not just about the broadcasting, but your basketball career, and help people just be better. You're an awesome person, and you've done a very successful, or you've had a successful career so far. And just looking forward to seeing where you go from here.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. I had a blast.
Thank you for listening to the Beyond the Buckets podcast. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and share the show with your friends. And until next time, take care.